5. Let's look at this, what's called oscillating behavior. Now this is one I've heard a different mathematicians describe this differently. I'm going to take this approach. I'll show you. When we go to find the limit of this oscillating graph here, that oscillating just means it's kind of going back and forth like that. If it approaches and gets smaller to one value as you go, so let me give you a bigger picture here. Let's just make this x times sine of x. Okay, as I zoom out here, you see how it's getting smaller and smaller as it comes in? I've heard it said that if the graph is oscillating but approaching, getting smaller and smaller towards one point, we will go ahead and classify the limit. So this graph, though it would be hard to say from the left, where is it approaching? Well, ultimately, because it's oscillating closer and closer to 0, we would say the limit of x sine x as x approaches 0 from the left is approaching the value 0, and I would say the same from the right. Now it is a little bit trickier. I've heard it described both ways. They're saying, well, how can we actually say that because it's going up and down? How can we say, well, because it is, let me put this on here as it goes from the right side, equals 0. I've heard it said because these values are getting closer and closer, meaning it's shrinking as you go. This oscillating is shrinking. I've heard it said that you can classify the limit. Now others might argue and say you can't, and I'll let you decide. I like to say that we can because it is, as we get closer and closer, infinitely closer to 0, we can tell that this graph is approaching 0. So I'm going to go ahead and classify it that way. Say it can equal 0 here. Now that might not exactly follow some of the rules we saw earlier. I know this one says if it's oscillating between two fixed values, but the values aren't fixed to me. These values are ever shrinking as we go. So I would say the limit does exist on this one. Whoops, where am I? Now for you, I'll let you take a look. Am I on the right one? Here we go. I'll let you take a look on this graph, and let's, for a second, I'm going to actually show it to you so you can have an idea of what you're looking at. Cosine of 1 divided by x. I'm going to make sure I get this right. So 1 divided by x, like this. X. Okay. I'll let you look at, here's the graph oscillating. I'll let you make up your mind on whether or not you think that limit would exist, whether it's approaching the same point or if the point would be different. But I'll let you make up your own mind for yourself.